Welcome to Project 2. In this project, we're going to use Excel to combine the two spreadsheets that we were using in the first project, and then we're going to explore some other features of Excel. So there's no file for you to download to start with. You've already got all the files that you need to begin. Let's go to the Start button and open up Excel. Now, if you have not already signed in, you should do so. In my case, I'm going to, and remember to do that, you would click on Sign In, which will appear up here. If someone else is signed in, you can use the Switch Account feature to sign yourself in. Then you would go to Add Account, and you would sign in with your own account. And go ahead and pause the video while you sign in. Okay, so now you should be signed in and you should see perhaps your picture and your name and email address up here. We're going to open the workbooks that we used in the last project, in Project 1. So to do that, from the green bar here, we're going to click on Open Other Workbooks down at the bottom. Now, you may find the workbooks you're looking for under Recent Workbooks, and if you do, you can go ahead and click them there. U.S. population by state is one that we're looking for, and Maine population by town is the other one we're looking for. However, because that's really easy, and I want to make sure that you can do it even if you don't see that option there, I'm going to step you through the slightly more complicated way. Opening something that is not under Recent Workbooks. So if you see it under Recent Workbooks, go ahead and open it. But if not, and again, that's U.S. population by state, Maine population by town. But if not, go to OneDrive Personal. This is where you find all of your OneDrive files. And you probably have your Excel folder in your recent folders, in which case you can click on it. If not, click Browse. And then you want to find your Excel folder. Now, I know that I put my Excel folder in my Starting Documents folder. You should have Excel right here. Okay, once you've found the files you're looking for, we can begin by opening either Maine population by town or U.S. population by state. Now, there's an easy way to open multiple files, and that is you click on the first one, and then you hold the Control button on your keyboard, and you click on the second one. And then you keep holding Control, and you can keep clicking on as many other files as you want. And when you're done, you simply click Open. So that's what I've done. I've highlighted both Maine population by town and U.S. population by state, so I'm going to be opening both of those simultaneously. And then I'm going to click on Open. So again, the process for doing that is to click the first one, then hold the Control key, and then click the second one. And then click Open. And now you'll notice down on your taskbar you have you see your Excel icon, and then instead of simply having a single square around the Excel icon, you see where it looks almost layered here. And then if you click on that, you'll get a list of all of the Excel windows that are open. And if you click on each of them, you'll see the two different files. Now, if you only opened one of the files, you should go ahead and open the other one. So, for example, if the files were listed on your recent files list, you only opened one of them. So, go ahead and go to the File tab here on the ribbon to go to Backstage View, and then go to Open. And you should have the other one on Recent Workbooks, in which case go ahead and click on it to open it up. Or return to OneDrive and the Excel folder to open the other one. But again, if you use the Control click option, you've already got them both open, you're good to go. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video now to open the other one. So now you should have both spreadsheets open. We're going to create a new spreadsheet, and we're going to call it simply population. So to do that, let's go to File, and you can start, how about you switch to US population by state first. So if you don't have that open, go ahead and click on the Excel icon and choose US population by state to bring that up. Now once you have that up, go to File and Save As. Now if you were to choose Save here, it's simply going to save the current state of US population by state under that same file name. What we want to do is create a new file using the US population by state file as the basis for that. So we're going to go to Save As, and that means we're going to give it a new name. The Excel folder should be your current folder, so go ahead and click that. And again, let's call this population. Once you've typed in population, click Save. And now, up in your Excel title bar at the top of the screen, you should have Population Excel. And that means the file name is population, and it's in Excel. Now, we want to combine these two spreadsheets. So how would we do that? Well, there are a couple of ways. The first, actually either way, we're going to begin by going to the other spreadsheet. So go ahead and click on the Excel icon and then click Main Population by Town. And that will switch you into the Main Population by Town spreadsheet or workbook. So there are a couple of ways, as I said. The first is to select everything in this spreadsheet, copy it to the clipboard, and then paste it into a new worksheet in your population workbook. So I'll show you how to do that first. So the first thing you want to do is just click somewhere within the actual data. So you can click on really any cell here that has information in it. And then you want to select all. And to do that, you hold the Control key on your keyboard and then you press A. What that does is it selects the cell you're in and all adjacent data. So you can see it selected all the way over to G because there's nothing in the H column. Even though you see total population 2000 it extends into H. That's actually, the information there is in the G column. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that it selected all the way down to the bottom of our list of towns. So it selected all adjacent data. Okay, next up you're going to click the Copy button, or you can also use the keyboard shortcut Control-C. The Copy button is on the Home tab of the ribbon in the Clipboard group, and you can see I'm placing my mouse on it right now. That's what it looks like. Kind of looks like 2 pages that you've put through the copy machine. So go ahead and click that, or again press Control-C, either one. And now let's go back to the Excel icon and switch into the population workbook. Now we want to put this onto a new worksheet. And so to do that, we click the New Sheet button down here by the Worksheet tabs. This creates a new sheet named Sheet 2. And then we can simply paste. And you paste by either pressing Control-V or clicking on the paste icon. Now the paste icon is a split icon. In our case, we simply want to click the top part where the picture itself is. If you were to click the bottom part, you get options, lots of them. And right now we don't care about the options. All we want is the default option, which is just to paste as we copied. So we're going to click on the top. And that pastes the data into this worksheet, you notice the column widths did not copy over. So you can't see the whole town name like you could in the other worksheet. But all the information came over. And some formatting came over. You notice the bold and the numbers are formatted with commas in them, things like that. Okay, so that is one way to copy from one workbook to another. There is another way, and it's actually a little bit quicker when you're doing something like this where you've got a single worksheet that you want to copy as a new worksheet into a different workbook. Now it's key that we have both workbooks open right now. And we still have main population by town open and population open. So we're going to switch back into main population by town. And then we want to right click on the main population by town worksheet tab. So down here at the bottom where it says main population by town, you want to right click on that. Now we're going to go to move or copy. We looked at move or copy in the previous project, but what we didn't look at was the to book dropdown. So if I click to book, or if I click that dropdown which currently says main population by town.xlsx and choose population, it's going to allow me to copy this worksheet as it is into my population workbook. So click move to end in the before sheet list and then click create a copy. That way the worksheet will remain in the main population by town workbook. It will simply create a copy of it in the population workbook and then click OK. And now it takes us into the population workbook, and we can see we now have main population by town as a worksheet in this workbook. You'll also see all the formatting was copied over, including the column widths. So that's the two different ways to get information from one workbook to another. We're all done with the main population by town workbook. Not the worksheet, but the workbook. So you can click on the Excel icon, hover over main population by town, and click on the X that appears in that row to make that go away. We didn't make any changes to it, so it's just going to do it. It's not going to ask us. If you did make any changes to that workbook, it'll ask you if you want to save those changes. So which of these worksheets that contain the main population by town do we want to keep? This one's more nicely formatted, so let's keep this one and let's delete sheet 2. So we're going to right click on sheet 2. You'll get your nice context menu here, and then click on delete. It'll ask you, are you sure? You can't undo that. Click delete. Now click the save button or press Control S on your keyboard. That's holding the Control key and pressing the S key. Those each save. Okay, let's rename main population by town. So I'm going to double click where it says main population by town. And you notice there's hyphens in the tab name there, the worksheet name. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those. So I want spaces instead of hyphens. Once I'm done that, I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to go to sheet 1. And I want to rename this one US population by state. So I'm going to right click or double click. So I can either right click and go to rename, or I can simply double click on sheet 1. If it's easier for you to right click and choose rename, then you can do that. I find it easier to double click. And I'm going to call this one US population by state. All right, once you've done that, you do press Enter to say that you're done changing the, renaming the tab. Okay, so let's look at a few other features of Excel. The first feature we're going to look at is the Format as Table feature. So if you click anywhere within the data, and then go to the Home tab of the ribbon and click on Format as Table, you can format this information as a table. And I'm going to show you some benefits of that after we do it. So go ahead and do that. Again, click just anywhere in the table. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to select the whole table, although you can if you want. And then click one of the styles that is shown in the Format as Table gallery. Once you do that, you'll get the Format as Table dialog box. It looks like this, and it specifies the range, A1 through G53, and there's an option that says my table has headers. That should be checked. Name, 1960, 1970, etc. are your headers. So click OK. Now, one of the features of a table is that as you're scrolling through the information, your header row will continue to remain visible. I'll show you what I mean. Right now, at the top here, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are our column headings. Well, right below that, we have the table header. Name, 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010. If we go over to main population by town, we've got the same thing. We've got, place, geo, total population, etc. And if we scroll down, we continue to see A, B, C. We don't see the header row. That's because this isn't formatted as a table. Even though the information is laid out like a table, it's not formatted that way so that Excel understands that it is. So when the header row is gone, you're left with simply the column headings. But if we go back to the U.S. population by state worksheet and we start to scroll down, you'll notice immediately once your header row is missing, the column headings get replaced with the header row. So instead of seeing ABC, we now see name, 1960, and 1970. It makes it much easier to read long tables of information. You'll also notice the header row is nicely formatted, and there's these buttons in each cell of the header row. Let's click on one of those, and you'll see those buttons give you the ability to sort the information and also to filter. And this gives you all of the values in your table in that column, and so you could actually choose, instead of select all, which is the default, you could say I just want to see those states that have, or that had 226,167 citizens in 1960. Click OK, and not surprising, there's only one state that matches that. Even more useful than that are the number features. Number filters. So these allow you to do things like equals or does not equal, greater than, less than, or even top 10. Let's try top 10. Top 10 is called top 10, but actually it allows you to choose a different number like top 11, etc. Or you could do the bottom. And you could also use percent instead of items. Let's say we're doing top 12 items. So this shows us the 12 most populous states in the Union in 1960. Now they're not sorted in any way, but we can sort largest to smallest by using that same drop-down. And then we have, notice the total population of the US, of course, is the top, and then New York, California, Pennsylvania are below that. All right, and now if we simply click Clear Filter from 1960, that will clear that, and then we'll go back to, if we click the drop down again and click Sort Largest to Smallest again, it will resort largest to smallest. All right, let's go into main population by town and do the same thing. This time, though, we're going to look at a different way of doing it. Rather than simply clicking Format as Table, or using Control-A, because we did learn how to use Control-A to select all. Instead, we're going to manually choose the cells that we want to select. And so to do that, we're going to select the A1 cell by simply clicking on it. And then we're going to hold the mouse button down and we're going to go across to G. And then we're going to go all the way down. And if you simply place your mouse below the last cell, it will just keep scrolling down. So go all the way down to row 549. And once you're down there in G549, you can let go, and that will select all of the information. Now click the Format as Table button again and choose a format that you want. You'll get the same Format as Table dialog, asks you where is the data, and you'll have a checkbox for my table has headers. It does, so that's good. Click OK. And again, the table gets nicely formatted. You can see as you scroll down, the header row becomes the column headings. It's really nice. We're going to play with this one a little bit more. First of all, one thing we can do with a table is give it a name. This is something we're not going to use in this project, but we might as well specify a name for the table. So I'm going to call the table main. Now, if you did not already have the Table Tools Design tab selected, it should have been selected when you formatted as a table, but if it didn't for some reason, you can click on that tab. And then table name is up here in the Properties group. All right, I'd like to add a total row. The total row is the row at the end of the table that displays totals for each column. So let's click on Total Row. Now this adds a total row to the table. You notice the total row gets a darker color, more like the header row. What it doesn't do is include actual totals, but we're going to look at how we do that in a minute. The other thing I want to do is format the first column specially. So I'm going to check the first column checkbox, and you'll notice now there's a different color scheme for the first column. That's handy in this case because the first column is, well, it's handy in most cases actually, because the first column usually describes the data in the rest of the row. Now, some other checkboxes up here. You notice banded rows is turned on. If we turn it off, you can see what that does. It makes one row, darker than the next one. You can also do banded columns, which does the same thing except with columns. You can also specify that the last column should be formatted in a special way. In this case, that really doesn't make much sense because the last column isn't different from any of the other columns, really. If you had something like a total column for that row as the last column, then you would probably turn that on. Now, I mentioned the filter buttons. Those are the little drop downs. You can turn those off if you want. And you notice when we turn it off, it didn't immediately turn them off, but when we get to the top of our table, you notice they're now gone. But they can be really handy, so we'll turn them back on. Okay, now if we go back down to our total row, you may have noticed when I was clicking around in the total row, if I can find it there, each of these columns in the total row has a button for a drop-down. The label that it gives for the total row by default is total, which is what we want in this case. For geo, we really don't need anything in that total row, so let's click into total population 1960. And then let's click the drop-down, and we can use the sum option to give us a total of all of the values in that column. So let's click sum. So what this says is that in 1960, the total population of the state of Maine was just over 2.9 million people. So let's click in the 1970 drop down and let's do the same thing. It's almost 3 million people. And then go ahead and repeat the same process for each column. Now, if you know anything about the population of Maine, you may be thinking at this point that our numbers are a bit off. And if you are, then you're correct. The numbers are very much off. In fact, they're multiplied by 3. Why is that? Well, notice this geo column. And you'll notice it starts out with a value of state, and that's for the Maine row. So that was the actual population of Maine in 1960. Next up we have county, and then we have town. So basically we're looking at the population of all 16 counties, the entire state, and every town. And we're adding all of those up to get the total population. So obviously, since there's the counties are the sums of their towns and the state is the sum of their counties, it's messing things up. So this seems like a great time to try the filter. Let's click on the filter button in the geo column. And let's uncheck select all and then check the town option. And then click OK. This is going to remove everything but the towns. And so now we get a more accurate look at the numbers. And you'll notice the total row automatically updated to reflect the fact that we're only looking at the towns. Now these numbers make a whole lot more sense. Now notice still in the Table Tools Design tab we have the Table Styles group here. This gives us the gallery of table styles, and so we could actually change the table style very easily. If we decide we don't like this yellow or whatever it was you chose, you could choose a different style. Even a drastically different style. Now notice different styles have different ways of presenting information. For example, some of them don't have first column formatting. So this has given you a good look at tables. All right, so the final thing we're going to look at in this project is creating a chart. To do that, we want to scroll all the way down to our to the bottom of our table, to our total row. And then we're going to click on the C550 cell, that's the total population for 1960, in the total row. We're going to scroll over, hold the Shift key, and then click on the total population 2000, which is the G550 cell. Once you click in that cell, you'll notice it'll highlight from C to G. That's what the Shift button does for you. It allows you to easily highlight a range by simply clicking, hold Shift, and then click again. Next, we're going to insert. We're going to go to the Insert tab. And we want to insert a line chart. So look at the Charts group here. Click Insert Line Chart. And then choose a line chart that you like. What you end up with is not all that useful, but that's because things are turned around a little bit. In the Chart Tools Design tab, which should have come up when you inserted the chart, in the Data group, you've got a Switch Row Column button. Go ahead and click that. And there we go. That shows you the progression. But you still don't have axis labels that make sense. Okay, so to change this, we go back to the Data group and click Select Data. The data range is correct. What we want to do is change the axis labels. So click the Edit button under Horizontal Category Axis Labels. It's going to ask you for the range. Click the little button in the Axis Label Range box to go into Select Mode. And now scroll all the way up to the top of our table and highlight C1 through G1. And you can either click and drag to highlight, or you can use the Shift key again. Doesn't matter, they do the same thing. Once you've done that, you've highlighted C1 through G1, you click the little button in the Axis Labels box, and then click OK. Now it shows the horizontal category axis labels are now total population 1960 through 2000. Click OK. And then if we scroll back down to the bottom where our chart is, we now have a chart with actual labels. One final thing we want to do is move our chart to a separate worksheet. So with the chart still selected, if it isn't selected, click on it again. Go to the Chart Tools Design tab if that isn't selected on your ribbon. And then in the Location group at the very end of the ribbon, click Move Chart. Click New Sheet and type Main Population by Town Chart. This will create a chart sheet. It's a worksheet that doesn't actually contain a spreadsheet, it's just a chart. Click OK, and there we have it. A separate worksheet, or chart sheet, that contains our chart. And then if we go back to our main population by town worksheet, you notice we no longer have the chart here. We've moved it. Alright, so we're all done. Click the Save button. Go to File. Remember you want to share this with me, so click Share. Make sure Invite People is selected. Type nate@nateleclaire.com and then click Share. Finally, if you're all done for the day, be sure to go to the Account tab, So you want to go to Backstage View by clicking File if necessary. Make sure you're in that Backstage View and go to Account, and then click Sign Out. Then you want to make sure you close Excel and sign off of the computer. That is if you're not using your personal computer. If you're using your personal computer, you don't need to sign out. Okay, we are going to be using this spreadsheet, this workbook again. In a future video, we're going to look at grouping data. And we'll be looking at lots of other things as well, but that's one of the things that we're going to do with this, so that we can actually group these by county and see county totals as well. But that is in a future video. In the next project, which is actually spread out across several videos, we're going to create a small business management worksheet, or workbook rather. It contains a number of worksheets that allow us to keep track of our sales and purchases and all sorts of fun things. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.